Marcia. That was a very efficient way into this. Bert, I will have you know, wherever Bert is, that I just gave up my 100th anniversary pin to Eugene to make him an unofficial member. So I would like one back. And hopefully free.
It's $20.
$20.
That's quick.
You are now a proud owner of a Centennial pin.
Yeah, I'm back.
There you go.
All right, we are definitely in the middle of political season. Eugene, I have to tell you, is a very good prognosticator as far as who's going to win these different caucuses and primaries. We've been trading that back and forth. He's got a pretty good track record going. And certainly Governor Wolf gave his budgetary speech yesterday, so it's very appropriate that we would have our speaker with us today. And that is State Auditor General Eugene DePasquale. Eugene was elected Pennsylvania's 51st Auditor General in the fall of 2012. And the Auditor General is responsible for ensuring that all state money is spent in a legal and proper way. Eugene has focused audits on areas that will improve the lives of all Pennsylvanians and prepare our state for a brighter future. As an example, his audits have found fraud, error, and other financial issues in school districts and charter schools to the tune of well over $20 million. He conducted a large-scale audit of the Department of Environmental Protection's monitoring the water quality related to Marcellus Shale gas drilling. He's also pushed for transparency and governance changes at Penn State and other state universities, and currently is in the middle of auditing municipal pension plans throughout the state. And if you're not aware, Pennsylvania, I believe, probably has more municipal plans than any other state in the country. Prior to his service as Auditor General, Eugene served us very ably as in the State House of Representatives here in York. And Eugene was born and raised in Pittsburgh. He received his law degree from Widener University School of Law, a master's from the University of Pittsburgh, an undergraduate degree from the College of Worcester in Ohio. Eugene lives in York County, not very far from here, with his wife Tracy and their two children, Ben and Sarah. And he stays active in his church, and he's also continuing coaching youth baseball. Eugene was the first York County elected to serve in a statewide office since the 1954 election of Governor George Leader. Eugene now shares that honor with Governor Tom Wolf, and York County now holds 2 out of the 4 statewide elected executive branch offices. Really rather remarkable. Some of the Auditor General's office responsibilities are auditing state agencies, school districts, municipal pension plans, liquor stores, hospitals, and corporate tax returns. Eugene will fill us in on what he's experienced in this important role serving the taxpayers of Pennsylvania. I would ask the fellow Rotarians and our guests to please warmly welcome York's very own State Auditor General, Eugene DePasquale.
Hopefully this doesn't compromise the gift band issue. Get legal counsel to determine if that violates any of the rules and protocols on that. Mike was quite gracious on outlining my prognostication last night on the primaries. I think I nailed the top 3 slots in the Republican and close to the exact percentage on the Democratic side. What he forgot to tell you was I completely botched the Super Bowl because I predicted Carolina 27-17, and some of you in here have been more than happy to point that out on my Facebook page that I should be sticking to auditing as opposed to football analysis. Somebody even joked that I maybe had one too many head injuries when I played at the College of Worcester in Ohio, so I thought that was a little bit rough. But how did I know that Cam Newton wasn't going to complete a pass because Von Miller was going to be hitting him that guy? Well, I couldn't see that coming. So for those of you, I don't call everything right. I'm glad this is on tape because this is something I saw that I was sort of curious. I came here at the beginning of my term and said what I'm going to do. Now, what I would like is somebody to look at both of these afterwards and see how close I came. No, I mean it did, because I actually didn't review that. I see it here, it's like, yeah, they filmed that one, so we'll see. Like going, oh, he thought he was going to, audit the Iraqi reconstruction. He didn't get it that. No, I didn't say that. So somebody emailed the office about that one time, but quite a little bit out of the jurisdiction. I'm going to obviously talk for a little bit then. I think we're okay to open up for questions. So I'm looking forward to take as many. I'm going to talk a little bit about what we've done in our office, some of the issues we see, I think some of the issues confronting Pennsylvania moving forward, then open up to any and all questions. For starters, the first thing I announced that we were going to do when I was Auditor General was audit our own internal functions. If I'm going to go out to school districts all over the state, if I'm going to go out, municipal pension plans, state agencies, and audit these entities, I thought it was important to try to practice what we preach. So to try to be as efficient as we could. Now understand, and I'm not just making this as a joke about government, we are all human beings. There is never a 100% efficiency. It always is a goal of trying to make yourself more efficient, more productive, but you never get to 100%, nor should we. We're not robots. But the idea was to at least, if we're going to go out and bang away at these other entities for wasting money, we needed to practice what we preached. So we have completely altered our own internal operations. Give you an example. In the 1990s, the department had about 906, 907 people, give or take, about 1996. Today, we have 459. And we are completing more audits. In fact, we're completing 1,000 more audits per year than the department did in 2008 with about 750 employees. We are, per employee now, 65% more efficient than the department was in 2012 by investing in technology, by changing our work rules, by becoming more mobile. To be blunt, I shifted to a work from home policy so that we could get people more out at their sites in quicker time, investing in technology, also secure technology, so that we could become more efficient. On the same token, we're getting our audits done in 33% faster time. And we've had some people that have been on school boards here, some other entities. We've sometimes in the past have had great audit results that you get 6 years too late. And I mean, it might be, a tremendous thing to give you, but you might have a new board at that time, you might have new leadership, the markets might have changed, and you can't do anything with that. So my stressing on our team is that the audit, while maybe somewhat helpful if it's late, diminishes in value every day we don't get it to them on time. For us to truly try to help make government work better, it not only needs to get done and need to get done well, but it also needs to be timely. We've also gone to an all-electronic operation. So, for example, you say, well, what does that really mean? Before I came in, every audit was printed 50 times, single-sided sheets. That doesn't happen anymore. This last year alone, by the amount of paper we saved, it was 3.3 million sheets of paper. Enough to put from the turnpike from Pittsburgh to Philadelphia and back. We've saved $2 million in travel, and I have had a total now of, I think, 7 hotel stays since I've been Auditor General, traveling around the state. People go, Eugene, I see you're all over the place. How is that possible? Well, there is a little bit of a full disclosure. When I'm in Pittsburgh, I sleep on my mom's couch. The room service there is dramatically better. The wine is fantastic. So I'm not losing out on that deal. You get caught up. But again, trying to practice what we preach. I have had no out-of-state travel. We participate in conferences and online. I mean, and we try to learn. We're always trying to improve ourselves. But we try, especially in these tough economic times. So that's what we've done internally. Moving forward to what we've actually found, I'm going to start off with the number that I did not anticipate I would be coming to share with you in year 3. We have found over $100 million in wasted taxpayer money just in my first 3 years in audits. Now, the good news is we do about 5,000 audits a year. 4 out of every 5 is what is described as a clean audit. I mean, again, nobody's perfect. But 4 to 5 are described as what is known as a clean audit, meaning people are doing the best they can. Yeah, maybe you should put the pencil in a different drawer. But generally speaking, most people, most of your public servants, are trying to do a good job. And the ones that aren't are only messing up slightly and they're willing to take the advice and move forward. Not everyone is like that, though. tragically, some of our worst audits have been on the school district, charter school, and even the Pennsylvania Department of Education level. Here's an example. There was a school district in Erie County that thought it was appropriate to allow Canadian minor league hockey players to go to their school district for free in exchange for a hockey ticket for their administrators. Now, this is the advantage of being the boss. So, our auditors, God love them. I mean, it's by the book, right? It's by the book. So that comes to me, and we're going over the audit, and that is audit finding 4. Audit finding 1 is the pencils in the wrong drawer, 2, it's the papers filed wrong, 3 is this. And I said, why is that 4? And by the technical sort of yellow book process that we go by, it wasn't considered a major accounting find. I said, okay, look, for good or for bad, the voters have put me in here, so I'm going to use a little executive discretion. We're going to move that to audit finding 1. You sure, boss? Trust me on this one. I go to my chief of staff. I said, we're going to Erie tomorrow. So, needless to say, the people of that school district were not exactly thrilled that they were bankrolling the top NHL draft pick, McDavid, who's now playing for Edmonton, I'm not making this up, going to their school district for free. I think he just got like a $5 million signing bonus too. And so this is some of the shenanigans that you find. Some of the worst findings we found, and by the way, we found there's a lot of great charter schools out there, but there's some that are, to be blunt, stealing from the taxpayers. There are improper lease reimbursements in about half our charter schools all over the state. That means that money that should be going to the classroom of your public school or the kids in the charter school is benefiting some private management company that may not even be located in Pennsylvania. Not that it'd be okay if it was. That's directly, in my view, stealing from the kids and the taxpayers of Pennsylvania. But perhaps the most egregious education finding we had was the first time the Pennsylvania Department of Education had a comprehensive audit of itself. And anybody, I know, I see Joel here, a couple others that have served on the school board. You're not going to be shocked to hear this. The Pennsylvania Department of Education is not the most proactive agency on improving education in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. Here's, as we're doing the audit, what we're finding. I would meet with school business officials and school board members, and they would say, sometimes you get general if they don't know me well, but if they know me, they know to call me Eugene, because Patton was a general, I'm not. And I'm certainly not at home, for those of you that are aware of that situation. So I said, hey, what are some of the things we should be looking at? And so I said, Eugene, on Tuesdays and Thursdays, the department doesn't answer their phone. I thought that's made up. It's ridiculous. It's absurd. I found out it was wrong. Sometimes you add Friday into the mix. By the way, like, this is like funny and it's also tragic at the exact same time. The most tragic part of that, and there's also a part where the spokesperson for the department sent an email literally to the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette saying we're done cooperating with him, he does too many audits, as if the people of Pennsylvania don't want more accountability. I mean, have you ever heard anyone in the coffee shop going, boy, I wish there was less accountability in our government. I mean, this is sometimes the arrogance that can creep into people in public office. And we know that, look, there can be arrogance all over the place, but this was the idea that they weren't going to cooperate because, quote, I had done too many audits. Obviously, we have methods to force compliance. You had that, you had Pittsburgh Post-Gazette editorial, and needless to say, they complied. Now I know why they were resistant. There are 561 what are referred to as non-Title I schools in Pennsylvania that the department themselves had determined were academically challenged. And that doesn't mean every kid in the school. Understand that means the average. So there could be some kids going to Harvard, Yale, etc. there. I don't mean this to be funny at all. There could be some, but overall, 561 schools that weren't meeting the department's own criteria for being a passing school. And guess what the department's plan was to help them? Close your eyes. What do you see? Nothing. They had zero plan to help the 561 schools that they themselves had determined were academically challenged. I mean, that's outrageous. What the heck is the Pennsylvania Department of Education for if it's not there to help schools, especially the ones that are struggling, meet their own criteria for success? So that means that there's a big chunk of these kids that are just being left behind by Pennsylvania. So, we're going to call them out on that. We've also audited our state system of higher education to make sure that our kids, when they're on college campuses, are in as safe an environment as possible. It can never be 100%. Making sure each campus has a plan for safety. Because we now know, maybe when some of us went to college, it wasn't as well known as it should have been, but we now know that assault, particularly sexual assault, is a real problem on our college campuses. And as someone who has a young daughter, but it shouldn't matter whether you have a daughter or son or any kids, but we now know that that happens, and we need to crack down on it, because as the statement goes, no means no. So we did that audit across the state. We also did our audit of the Department of Environmental Protection. Proud to say that the 27 recommendations that we put forward on how to make sure we have safe drinking water were implemented by both the Corbett and the Wolf administration. So, there was at least some level of state government can work in a bipartisan fashion. We found the Department of Labor and Industry was not enforcing the statewide ban on mandatory overtime in our healthcare facilities. And sometimes the list goes on and on and on. We're now auditing the Pennsylvania Gaming Control Board. That audit will be done soon, auditing the Turnpike Commission and their massive debt. We are soon going to be announcing our audit of the Philadelphia School District, including their oversight of the charter schools in the city and their administration. Just so people know, there are more kids in charter schools in the city of Philadelphia than there are in the traditional public school system in the city of Pittsburgh. That's how many kids. So that audit is not just, that's in a sense an audit of the second largest school district in Pennsylvania, just the kids in the charter school. So, and it's been well talked about locally. I know Mayor Bracey has certainly been an outspoken advocate of this. But if I could wave a magic wand, the one issue that we need to do to make sure that our cities, boroughs, and towns can prosper moving forward is municipal pension reform, because cities are just going to be crippled if we don't fix this. And I know it makes people uncomfortable, not necessarily people in this room, but people in both parties in Harrisburg and on all sides of the negotiation, but it's something that has to get done. So that's been the work of 3 years. We'll see how the tape looks. Matt, our old football days, you look, Mr. Ritchie, you look at the tape, you see how you did, and so you analyze, I missed that block, but I got that guy. So we'll see how the tape goes for anyone that has enough free time on their hands to watch both tapes. So I don't know if anyone is that excited to hear 2 different speeches by an Auditor General, but that's been some of the work that we've been doing for our last 3 years. I absolutely love the job. It has strengths and weaknesses, and people ask me that, so I'll confront it. The biggest weakness is that we can't enforce what we find. That is the biggest frustration. There has been talk in the legislature of giving us that ability, especially when it comes to schools, meaning charter and traditional public, but it hasn't gone anywhere. But that is the biggest frustration. The second biggest frustration is municipal authorities, particularly sewer and water authorities. We don't have the jurisdiction to audit those. And believe me, there's not a week goes by that people don't call us about that. And that doesn't mean there's anything going on, but there is not an independent check on those per se. The thing I love most about it is every day we get to go out and try to find some aspect of Pennsylvania state government that I get to decide what to do. Some of them are mandated, but a big chunk of them are by my choice. I don't care who it ticks off. We go in there with an independent set of eyes, and we find a way to make that little program or that little school district or that little piece of Pennsylvania state government work a little better, and that is rewarding work. So thank you for having me. I'm more than happy to answer any questions. Just so everyone knows, the ask is to repeat the question just so everyone can hear what it is. So, and if I forget to do that, please hit me with that paper or something. Oh, here, then here.
I would challenge you to look at what the State Department is approving for graduate work for educators.
Okay.
They are very poor in some cases. They're done by commercial entities. Not only does it give the teacher a master's equivalency, but it also, in many districts, allows them to run across the salary schedule. They are courses that can be done in maybe 6 hours time, and I was in a big discussion with them, and I was told there was nothing they can do. They also have up fees from out-of-state institutions for these courses, and it's a travesty. Thank you.
No, thanks for the question. Is that in the question was, or wasn't a question, it was a look. So, yeah, well, it was a please, no question about that, there was a please there. Look at the requirements. Is that the Bureau of Professional Occupation? Is that what bureau it is in the Department of State?
It has to do with certification.
Certification.
and
No, thanks for raising it. The issue is certification for teachers, but this is an issue that rises in other professions as well. We have other people brought this to our attention. There is a very good chance that we're going to be looking at that. We certainly have the jurisdiction, whether that is truly enhancing people's professional standing or a money-making endeavor for a handful of people. So that is something that is certainly on our radar screen, so thanks for raising it. Joel?
Could you talk a little bit about the situation in the Pittsburgh school system where you uncovered the 129 million or so of accounting errors?
Oh, thanks, Joel, for raising this. Joel's question is, can you talk about what we found in our audit of the Pittsburgh School District? Now, I gotta tell this as a story because I think it adds a little bit more to like how crazy this was. I get a phone call soon after Mayor Peduto was sworn in. So that is January of 2014. I won in 12, get sworn in 13. He wins in 13, gets sworn in 14. I've known Bill for a long time, good guy, and he was told during the campaign that you're inheriting, it's separate, but the mayor of Pittsburgh, he knows where the buck stopped, is inheriting a school district that is on the verge of bankruptcy. So he calls me up, I'm going to say January, February, might have been March, I forget the exact time, says, can you look at this school district independently? He goes, I'm scared to death that they're going to go bankrupt. He goes, and look, people can talk about the school board being different than the city. He goes, I know where people, when these kids are on the street, who they're going to look to for a solution. I said, so we picked a time we could do it, and we went in and did the audit. The audit was completed last December. I go to Pittsburgh to have the press conference. We find that not only are they not going bankrupt, they had the largest surplus in the state of Pennsylvania. I didn't know at the time what was on their agenda that night at the school board meeting. I just went out there to announce the findings and pat that, hey, you've been doing a great job. You're restructuring your buildings, how you've handled your leases, how you've handled your health care. You now have a $129 million surplus. I went there to congratulate them. It was the strongest big city school district, financially speaking, that we had found in the state. And they had been for 10 years restructuring the costs, and that would be considered them, nobody's perfect, but doing the right thing. School board member, who I've known for years, Eugene, can I talk to you? This is after walking out. We have a property tax increase on the schedule for the school board meeting tonight. I said, why? Look, if you're wealthy but you want to make more money, God bless you, but we're talking like it's not free money, right? I said, why? They, meaning the administration, told us we were broke. Are you sure of these numbers? I said, two things. Number one is they just stood with me as I said these are the numbers. Number two is, look, could we be off a penny? Sure. But I'm telling you, this is what the numbers are. They canceled, or they tabled the vote that night, and a month later, they vote to keep the millage rate as is. So we stopped the property tax increase in the city of Pittsburgh. Before you clap though, here's the scary part. If I had had my press conference the next day, or 2 days later, we didn't know that was happening. That tax increase would have gone through. And so, again, I'm not saying it's never warranted, but on the same token, dot your I's and cross your T's before you ever do this stuff, and look under every stone, because that is something that literally is stunning. And elected members of the board did not know even close. I understand not knowing the exact number. We're not even close to knowing the financial situation of their own district. And if you don't know that, How are you going to make the right investments? How are you going to hold the right people accountable? How are you going to find out what you can and can't do? How are you going to make the right investments in early education? And how are you going to know when you should or should not do anything on the revenue side? So thanks for raising that. It's staggering. And is there a follow-up to that, Joel?
Yeah, I mean, that's the what. What's the why? How in the world did they amass that kind of money with nobody knowing
Right.
it? And of course, that's over a long period
Right,
of time, Eugene.
right.
They hit the threshold years ago.
Absolutely.
That should have prevented them from raising taxes. Are they now going to reduce taxes to return that money?
That is, no, that's a great question, because they are now over, oh, I'm sorry, yeah. The question was, are they going to reduce taxes? My gut would tell me no, but, okay? But they are well over the threshold of what is considered financially sound.
And have been for years.
Clearly have been for at least 3 to 4 years, as we now know, which didn't know before. And by the way, we'll take as much time as we need, so as long as people want to say. So here, and then we'll hear, and then here, and here.
Eugene, and what are the mechanics of that? How does $129 million go missing?
Well,
And who was responsible?
The question was, how does that happen? It's a great question to how it happened. I would say, because I've heard this before, and I'm not picking on you with the answer. People go, how did the money go missing? The money was never missing. It might have been missing in an account ledger, but it was never actually missing. I'm not sure which one of these, so I don't want to count. It's one of two. It's either they knew it and didn't want to tell anybody, or it's incompetence. In my view, there's no middle ground there. Neither one of them is a pleasant answer, but it's one of those two.
And your office doesn't reach that decision?
No, our job is, what? We come out and say, here's the facts, people of Pennsylvania. They then, and this comes into that enforcement thing, why people talk about they'd love to have me. Some people have said, do I have arrest powers? I said, that's a little beyond the auditing scope. But, and we do forward, on some issues, we do forward to the Ethics Commission, the Attorney General, or the feds in some instances as well. But to me, it's either incompetence or they knew and were lying. There's no middle ground on this one. But the money was never missing. Other questions?
Well, I just wanted to thank you for coming and talking to us. I also wanted to ask you to speak a little bit more on municipal pension reform. You know, I think a lot of people in this room probably hear about state pension reform, but don't realize how big an issue it is on the municipal side.
No, thanks, Anthony.
And I also want to thank you for at times bucking your own party on this, because I know it's been a politically difficult issue.
No, I appreciate that. Thanks, Anthony. The question was basically municipal pensions. There are some advantages of being the boss. So I'm Auditor General, and these municipal pensions are coming across my desk. And because they are smaller plans, the numbers do not pop out like the statewide numbers do. It's just not the same. So look, JFK had asked not what your country can do for you. You know, you go down the list. Abraham Lincoln's second inaugural. Franklin Roosevelt, the only thing we have to fear is fear itself. My big moment was I said, has anybody ever added up the total unfunded liability of municipal pension funds? And I, look, that's, it's in the tombstone someday, and my kids will go, why do you want that one? Was better than the Carolina pick over Denver being on the tombstone. So, you win some, you lose some. So I uttered that question, and the answer was it's never been added up. And so I said, let's figure out how this problem's ignored. No one's ever added it up. Well, then we now know. The number is just shy of $8 billion. That was, by the way, when we do this, I want to be clear, and this is the boring, technical, and scary part of being Auditor General. We have to base that number by what is known as the Yellow Book accounting standard, which I know so many of you pour over on a daily basis, because it is a page turner. But we have to base that number, no, and I don't read it to my kids at night. We have to base that number on what the city themselves project as their rate of return. They are allowed by state law to project up to 9%. Anybody want to think how many cities made that number last year? So when I say it's just shy of 8, I'm giving it by an accounting number, which is that has to be our number. I'm here to tell you, if it's not over 10 right now, I'd be stunned. Okay? how did we get here? Underfunding by cities, arbitration awards, people expecting something to, and even some cases I'll tell you, like Pittsburgh's for example, where sometimes just demographics work against you. They had 700,000 people living in the city in 1950. They have 300,000 today. They needed more police, and there's actually more retirees versus more workers. That's not the current mayor's fault. I mean, that they didn't, and not the current cops and fire. Like they didn't create that. As Henry knows, but the MMO payments are what you have to pay every year keep going up, and that means you can't hire more cops. You can't hire more firefighters. You can't fix the playground. You can't maybe as invested in as many streets. The stuff that people want when they talk about what they want their local government to do. So we put forward a task force plan that we think, we worked with all the groups, the FOP, the firefighters, ASME, SEIU from the union side. We worked with the mayors, we worked with the townships, and to be blunt, the townships tend to be a little bit more Republican, the cities tend to be a little bit more Democratic, but they're all on the same page on this one that needs to be fixed. The local chambers have been tremendous about this. Our joke is that, you have what tends to be more of the Republican local chambers and tends to be more of the Democratic city mayors, but they are hand in glove on trying to work together on this. We gave that task force report to the governor back in the end of June of last year. We were told, and I think it was 100% sincere, that this is the #1 priority once we pass the budget. Now, I don't think anyone, when they told us that, intended or even thought, or I wouldn't say dreamed because it would be a nightmare, that this would be where we are right now in the budget process. I mean, nobody's that clever to say that to me, knowing full well there won't be a budget by February of the next year. But having said that, here we are. The only thing I'm going to continue to stress on this is that every day this problem isn't addressed, the fix gets more expensive.
Simple question, why do we have to wait until the budget passes before we can address the issue?
The question is, why do we have to wait, the collective we of the Commonwealth, for the budget to pass? There is no reason other than I think that they thought process-wise, but no, there's nothing stopping it.
I think we're all in agreement that healthcare and municipal pensions are going to bankrupt our economy. Why can't every public employee be put on Social Security like the rest of us working folks and extend Medicare to cover all public employees? And get rid of all the fees, investment fees, and everything else that we're now paying.
The question was, basically, at the end of the day, is healthcare costs are, to paraphrase, a major problem that could lead to bankruptcy for cities and states across, not just Pennsylvania, but across the country. The short answer is these issues are going to have to be addressed. There's no question about it. When you look at, just for example, teacher contracts, I have long held that every teacher should be in a statewide healthcare plan across Pennsylvania. Make it a good, solid plan. Teachers, I think, the vast majority of them, I think, are doing a great job, or at least trying to do a great job. I think that would save costs, get a lot of administrative waste out of the system. I've said, on example, on municipal pensions, we should move all of that into what is known as the Pennsylvania Municipal Retirement System. We now have 900 plans in that out of the 3,000. Oh, by the way, we have more municipal pension plans in Pennsylvania than the rest of the country combined. The city of Harrisburg, not known as a beacon of fiscal responsibility, has 3 municipal pension plans. 2 of them are managed by the Pennsylvania Municipal Retirement System, 1 is not. The 2 managed by the Pennsylvania Municipal Retirement System are over 100% funded. The 1 that is not is now moved into distress category. So there are ways to do this in a way that, you're not hurting people that have a right to expect the benefit, or at least thought they were going to get it. And we have to manage those expectations, but there's ways to go about doing that. For example, here's one more point on that. The average fee, if you're in the Pennsylvania Municipal Retirement System, for your pension plan that cities pay, is between $250 and $350 per member per year. The city of Reading, I met with the mayor yesterday, $4,000 per member per year. And oh, by the way, they're not even beating the stock index fund. So there are things that can be done to save money without hurting average, everyday Pennsylvanians, both the taxpayer and the people that are in the system. And hopefully our path on municipal pension reform, that what I put in our task force report, pave the way for some of that. Other questions? I know there was like a bunch of hands, it was like a whack-a-mole type thing. Oh, periphery vision's not what it once was.
Gene, I'm embarrassed that I don't know this answer, but you said that the Attorney General's office does not have the authority for enforcement.
The Auditor General.
I'm sorry.
Well, I'm not the Attorney General. No, because my mom said that one time, and then she goes, "Oh, that's not." We're just.
I'm sorry.
I like to just make, so I think we're all on the same page as to why it's better to have the current position.
Let me rephrase that.
Yeah, please.
Does the
please.
Auditor General's office have the responsibility to make recommendation? So is that part and parcel with what you do, or is it merely to uncover the misalignments?
The question was, in a sense, surprise or shock, depending on one's point of view, that the Auditor General can't enforce this. We do have the responsibility, and do we make recommendations? We do have that responsibility, and we do it. And the lion's share of, especially like school districts across Pennsylvania, take that to heart and do it. That's, the first phrase is a little bit of a different situation.
Eugene, did you,
Brad and then Larry.
you ever expect to have an opportunity, and I know we discussed this in your office, to have the audit of our state appellate court system?
Yeah, it's the...
As you said, you would love to audit the new judicial center in Harrisburg.
Yeah, two things. The short answer is on what is known as the AO. The question is auditing the judicial. Now, there is a separation of powers issue that comes into some of this. So, for example, we are barred from auditing the legislature. Guess who's happy about that? Anybody here knows? Anybody here? Because they always like looking, yeah, we're not really looking to move that bill. And when I'm on PCN, people like, that's fire and brimstone and want me to do that. The second is the judiciary. The administrative office, we believe we have jurisdiction, and we're analyzing our best way to get into that, and we think we can do that on that question. A direct audit of the courts itself, we believe, through separation of powers, we can't. I would be stunned if the judicial center, either in Harrisburg or Philly, wouldn't have some issues in the audit if we were able to do that. But having said that, I respect, under current statute, the separation of powers. We do believe the administrative offices, we have that jurisdiction, and we're analyzing the best way to go about that. Larry?
After yesterday, it seems like the budget process is further away than it was even months ago. What's it going to take for somebody to come in there with some type of attitude and demeanor that's going to be able to bring this thing together to move it closer together? I've followed what you've had to say about it. It seems like that makes sense. Do you have the authority to go in there and broker something? Because this is to mediate something, because it doesn't look like it's going to get any better, and it just looks like it's more polarized after yesterday's speech.
Larry's question is, after yesterday, his suspicion is that they're not moving to compromise today. Because that a paraphrase of the question? And I would tend to agree with that position, or that sort of question on that. In September, I got asked this question, and I came up with what I thought was, Governor, call the legislative leaders, the key people that are negotiate this, and I said, it made me sound funny, but I was dead serious. Take a weekend, lock the residents, have people working in different rooms, and basically say, you're not getting out, order pizza, until we come up with a framework. That was, a handful of people were ticked off at me, but overall, I think, was what it was. But that was my opinion. In October, I got asked that question. I said, okay, they didn't lock themselves in, so here's my general thoughts of where I think the middle ground could be. November, I got asked, and I sort of said, well, and again, I'm saying one thing they need to stop doing is blaming each other and figure out what each individually can do to fix it. Because look, I can blame a lot of people for me not playing in the major leagues. I'm saying this to get to a point. That is, we can all blame somebody for why we didn't get to where we all wanted to be. Like, we all had dreams as kids and stuff. Okay, what happened? Well, maybe I could have worked a little harder, could have talent, maybe I could have got that break. But that doesn't fix the problem, because that may not change. It's what can you do on your own to help change the dynamic? So that's what I said in November. That didn't happen. So then I got asked in December, and then I gave the answer, Jedi mind tricks. And first of all, I'm a Star Wars junkie. It's now, you can be back and proud again as a result of The Force Awakens. My son doesn't have to worry about being uncool for wearing his Chewbacca shirt anymore, because there were some issues for a while after The Phantom Menace. Now we're all back, we're out, we're moving forward in a new direction. And and Lucas, while God bless him, some of his crazy stuff is shunted to the side, which is fine. That was my answer. The reason why I gave that answer was A, to be funny, and B, to prove a point. If they don't stop yelling at each other, it's not going to change. I mean, it's just not going to change. And I said this, I know there's Republicans and Democrats and independents in this room. There's liberals, moderates, and conservatives in this room. Everybody is entitled to their point of view. We all have a point of view. And I believe the vast majority of the people up there are fighting for the principles they believe in. Okay? I believe that. I know some of them on both sides of the aisle are doing that. I can't speak for everyone. But this is the consequence of divided government. And this is what our framers wanted, which was to move to a compromise. Our system is designed that we do not have dictators. And I don't mean that towards a knock towards the governor. This is everybody. Our system is designed for incremental change. That's what it's designed to do. And I've said it. I said it in Reading yesterday at the editorial board. I'll say it again here today. You have to have the courage to find the middle ground that you can defend. Not 100% agree with, but can defend. And then go out in a bipartisan way and say, everybody, I know some people are ticked, but this is where we are, and we believe this is the best deal at this time for the people of the state. And then you let the chips fall with the election. Because none of us come with the furniture. And that's sometimes the consequence of public life. Is sometimes you get handed, sometimes you become president and governor when the economy's booming, and you get to be Santa Claus to everybody. And sometimes you don't. And I believe, I'm not talking about everybody, I'm on Twitter too. I'm not talking about everybody on Twitter. I'm not talking about everybody on Facebook. But I believe if that happened, the vast majority of people in Pennsylvania would understand it. They maybe wouldn't be thrilled with it, but they'd be willing to move on. But right now, what you have as a result of that not happening is the state is being held back from doing anything because nobody's getting out of their ditch. And it's frustrating. It really is. But that's, to me, what has to happen. You have to have the courage to stand up and say to some of the people that you said, I'll never give in, and say, I didn't give in. I did something that I thought moves the ball forward for Pennsylvania, because our system was never created for wholesale change overnight. And by the way, the couple rare times it has happened, hasn't always worked out that well either. So sometimes incremental change is good.
Gene, I do remember your speech from, I guess, 3 years ago, and I think that compliment you. You have paralleled that speech and done what you were forced into doing. That is reducing your labor force and doing a great job. And I think I compliment you for that. I'll follow on to what you were just saying. The state of Pennsylvania continues to spend money without a budget. At this point in February, I'm thinking, what is the need for a budget? We continue to operate. The snowplows are out there. Everybody's getting paid. There is no forcing of anything, and money is being spent. I don't know under whose guidance it's being spent. I don't know what rules are being followed. Maybe we not need rules, or maybe we just might.
No, it's a great question. The question is, first of all, the first part of that was a commercial for my re-election. The second part was, if you don't have a budget, how can you spend the money? A couple things. First of all, I do think we're in somewhat of uncharted territory, but let me give a little bit of background here. when Governor Rendell's second term, a not quite as extreme, but a similar situation occurred, and Commonwealth Court ruled that if you force people to come to work, they have to be paid. Okay, that was, the question is, who does the executive branch force to come to work? And it usually is a determination of what is a threat to the health, safety, and welfare of the people of the state. And it is either a narrow or broad definition as to how that is interpreted. So I believe what was happening in the beginning was it was a broad interpretation, because everything in state government was still moving forward, minus checks to school districts, etc. Then a budget gets to the desk and there's about a third of it is line item vetoed. To me, the real question is, for example, corrections had a line item veto. I can go into court and make a very strong argument that closing all of our prisons is a threat to the health, safety, and welfare of the people of the state. But I also know that there was a line item veto on it. And so the question really, at some point, somebody somewhere is going to challenge this. And the question is going to be, how do the courts come down on that? Because it is a very fair point. If you're spending money on something that has had a line item veto, what is the point of the line item veto? There's two arguments here. One is the health, safety, welfare of the people of the state. The other is, it was line item veto. At some point, this is going to be settled in the courts, and I literally have no idea how that would be answered.
Last one.
Yeah. I'm sorry, I've been told the last question, so.
How has the budget impasse affected the operations of your department, your office, and how are you able to continue work considering the criteria that you just
Yeah, thanks. The question was, how has it impacted us? There is an impact because we haven't been able to fill vacancies. Until recent, we were not one of the line item vetoes. So that did give us an infusion of cash that we could still fill some vacancies. And some of our audits are funded by, in a sense, charging entities for the audit. So that was infusing money. And we had built up, to be blunt, because I saw this coming, a surplus. So we had a little bit of a cushion that was getting close to the end, and we weren't able to pay some of our vendors. That was getting a little hair-raising. So now that we've gotten our piece of the budget, we're back to being okay again. But what makes it difficult for me, and again, in the world of problems, this is not at the high end of it, but it makes it hard for me to plan where we're going to go long term in some of the bigger ticket items I want to do, because on some of our state and federal audits, those are very technical audits, and if I have to hire new people, I've got to hire people that have the right type of experience for that, and you got to be able to give them a fair salary. And if I'm going to go out and try to recruit that people, saying, oh, by the way, I might have to furlough you in September is not a very good way to recruit people. But I want to be clear, of the issues of impacting state government, education, corrections, etc., this pales in comparison. But yes, we see it even in our department. I think we got one more, and then I think that's a wrap, right? I think I'm going a little early.
So you like to make predictions. So who do you think will be the Democrat and Republican presidential nominees? And who do you think will be the president? Not who do you want to win or who you hope will win, but who do you think will win?
It's a great question. I'm going to give an answer, but if you would have told me a year ago that Ted Cruz and Donald Trump would sweep Iowa and New Hampshire and Bernie Sanders would clean Hillary's clock in New Hampshire, I would have. What were the odds in Vegas on that? So I'm just saying, if I'm wrong about this, there's reasons of unpredictability. I believe Hillary will eventually grind her way to being the Democratic nominee, but she is clearly going to have a real long-term fight on her hands. I believe Donald Trump's going to be the Republican nominee. I think he's going to be, and I asked me in July, but I think it's a coin flip in the general election. I think he's, and by the way, I say this for Bernie Sanders too, I think they're tapping into something. I don't like everything either one of them say. I mean, what's the Ed Koch quote? If you agree 60% of me, vote for me. If you agree 90%, see a psychiatrist. So, I mean, that was Ed Koch, not me, but I'm just merely repeating what the late, great mayor of New York said. So I think what he and Bernie Sanders, Donald Trump and Bernie Sanders are tapping to, I think it's real. I think people in both parties have had enough. And so I think because of structure and campaign and money and stuff like that, I think Hillary eventually grinds her way to the nomination, but it won't be easy. I think Trump's going to be the Republican.